Which did. This is our last book review of the fall season. We'll start up again in the spring. Today, Paul Chapman will be reviewing the book Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Paul is the executive director of the Chemung County Library District. Before becoming a librarian, Paul worked in fine arts, teaching art for years. Howl's Moving Castle is a modern-day take on fairy tales, magic, and exploring the heroine's journey. Sophie, the eldest of three sisters, sets out to seek her fortune after a witch places a curse on her. Jones is a masterful storyteller and can make anyone embrace the fantasy genre. So without delay, Paul Chapman.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So, some of that is preview to what I'm going to be talking about. Just taking the opportunity to introduce myself to people that I haven't met yet. So, just a little bit more about myself, in addition to what has already been said. So before we get into the book talk, I just want to take the opportunity to introduce myself. So if you haven't met me, my name is Paul Chapman. I am the newish director, is what I say. I've been here at Chemung County Library District since April of 2023. Just a little bit more about me. I am a military kid. I was brought up in a Coast Guard household. We moved around about every 2 to 4 years, just depending on what was going on. So I have lived in Louisiana, Florida, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Virginia, Alabama, and then repeated Virginia, Florida multiple times, Rhode Island, and it's, just all over the place now here in New York. So, and I've been here since 2020. I'm the former director out at the Vestal Public Library. I still lived here in Elmira and commuted out there every day. And then this job opened up, and I'm like, oh, well, I would love to work in my own community where I live and contribute to the place where I actually pay taxes, the library that I use. So the library is also near and dear to my heart, not just because I'm a librarian, but being a military kid and moving around all the time, the library was that one stable space that was always somewhere in the community, no matter where we moved. And so I would go there to do my homework, just explore and find the books that tantalize my imagination. So just a little bit of my educational background. My undergrad is from the James Madison University in Virginia. I had a BFA in Fine Arts, and then I got a MFA in Fine Arts at the George Washington University in DC. And then years later became a librarian at the Catholic University in DC. So my first job in undergrad was actually in the School of Art and Art History in their slide library. And little did I know that my first job as a budding adult would be my career. I've kind of ebbed and flowed kind of through other things over the years, but I've been a bookseller in the children's department, lead at Borders Books and Music. I was the training supervisor, the inventory supervisor, the office manager, district sales coordinator, and I just kept moving up through that until Borders closed. And I was like, what do I need to do next? This is not where I'm going to be. So I went back to school and became a librarian. But throughout all that time, I was teaching art in the community college and at George Washington University as well. So my specialty is in photography, but I dabble in everything, painting, collage. I worked for an animator for a period of time as well, so painting, drawing, all that, I just do it all. And then I became the collection development librarian and lead librarian at the Northern Virginia Community College, Alexandria campus. I was there for about 8 years. Then my partner and I moved to Richmond, Virginia, where I was there for a very short period of time. And I ran their tutoring center, still as a librarian, but that was just a foray in a totally different direction, but still using the teaching skills I learned. And then came Vestal and now here. So we're at There's a good chance you'll probably see me if you drive around Water Street. I'll be out walking two very cute Cavalier King Charles Spaniel puppies. Their names are Barnaby and Troy. If you watch Midsomer Murders, you may actually get the reference, so it's near and dear to my heart as well. And actually, if my phone goes off, which it shouldn't, it should be on silent, but my ringtone is the Midsomer Murders theme. So, another place I spend my spare time is in my garden and at the gym. But when it comes to reading, I listen to audiobooks and I also read, but being busy, if you haven't experienced audiobooks, it is a completely different world. You're still enjoying the book, but it's a performance at the same time. And so some of the books that I'm going to be talking about today, not only is the book fantastic, but I also recommend the audiobooks. The performances are wonderful. We're talking about people that from the other side of the pond, so you actually get some lovely accents in there, and some of our characters here in this book are from Wales, so you actually get some really interesting Welsh accents in the books when someone performs it. And in the world of fantasy, I also recommend audiobooks, especially if the reader knows what they're doing and consults with the author, because they can actually pronounce a lot of the things that you're reading, and you're like, I don't know what that is, I don't know how to say that out loud. So it's just another cheat that I use. But when I'm in the garden, when I'm at the gym, a lot of times I'm actually listening to an audiobook. So, my other interests that I've already mentioned, visual arts, cooking, coffee, and movies. So I just so happy to be part of the community, so happy that you all come out and do these sorts of things, and that you're active and engaged, not just in the community, but in the library too. And I'm gonna put in a little plug. I'm sure all of you do this, but November 7th, we have our budget up for a vote. I can't tell you how to vote, but I encourage you to vote and spread the word and encourage people in the community to come out and vote on the library budget. And so in addition to that, we actually also have our Board of Trustees election the same day here at Steele and in the Horseheads Library. So if your district is up for a re-election, also encourage you to come out and vote there as well. That's how you have say in what happens here in the library. Also, we recommend people join boards and join things here in the library, because we want to know your feedback, we want your input, we also want you to be part of what's happening here. So hopefully you've also noticed a lot of the changes that we've been making, so I encourage you to be part of that. Okay, so just a sneak peek. All right, so about our author, Diana Wynne Jones. She's actually one of my absolute favorites. I will say this is my favorite book, but it's hard to pick a favorite as a librarian. It's something I reread every year at least once, if not multiple times. So, and again, through the power of audiobooks, you can experience something rather quickly and do it while you're multitasking. So Diana Wynne Jones, born August 16th, 1934, and she sadly passed away March 26th, 2011. So, her birth and youth. Jones was born in London. She was the daughter of two teachers, Marjorie Jackson and Richard and Neam Jones. When World War II was announced, shortly after her 5th birthday, she was evacuated to Wales, where her grandfather was a minister at a chapel. Jones did not live in Wales for very long due to a family dispute. Her family ended up moving several times before they settled in Essex in 1943, where her parents ran an educational conference center. Like the main character of the book we're about to talk about, Jones had two younger sisters. Isabel later became Professor Isabel Armstrong, the literary critic, and Ursula, later an actress and children's writer, and she is still Ursula Jones, and she's still alive today. She's actually been in a couple movies, and if you've seen Ever After, she's in it. More about our author. So after attending Friends School Saffron Walden, she studied English at St. Anne's College, Oxford, where she attended lectures by both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien, names I'm hoping everybody's heard, even if you're not fans of the fantasy genre, before graduating in 1956. The same year, she married John Burrow, a prominent scholar of medieval literature, with whom she had 3 sons, Richard, Michael, and Colin. You see them right here. After a brief period in London in 1957, the couple returned to Oxford, where they stayed until moving to Bristol in 1976. Jones studied at Oxford, where she attended lectures by both C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien. She began writing professionally in the 1960s and remained active until her death in 2011. These are just some notable works, and I call them notable because they're my favorites by her. The Howl Moving Castle is actually the first book in a series of 3 books, and the Crestomancy series is actually a series of 10 books, but these are my favorite 4 out of the 10. The interesting thing about the Crestomancy books is they don't have to be read in any particular order. They are about different worlds and time travel to some degree, so it doesn't really matter. They're just all interchangeable and connected. So some of the common themes that are seen throughout Jones's work, perhaps being influenced by C.S. Lewis, she has recurring themes of time travel, multiple or parallel universes, magic, relationships between children and their elders, and responsibility. And kind of one of the main themes that I see a lot is what happens when a kid doesn't talk to an adult and ask questions or ask for help, and they try to fix things on their own, and just hijinks ensues usually. So Jones is also super prolific. She's written so many different things, and she's also been awarded many things, accolades as well as other awards. Jones was a major influence on the landscape of modern fantasy. She was admired by and the inspiration for notable authors such as Neil Gaiman, Philip Pullman, Terry Pratchett, and J.K. Rowling. Jones was nominated for 16 various awards, received many accolades throughout her career, including the Guardian Children's Fiction Prize, and I have to say this slowly so I say it right, 2 Mythopedic Awards, the Carl Edward Wagner Award, and the World Fantasy Award for Life Achievement. In 2004, Howl's Moving Castle was adapted into an acclaimed animated film by Hayao Miyazaki, further expanding her global audience. So if you've ever heard of Studio Ghibli, or Ghibli, I don't know how to say it properly, but there's a variety of very popular animated films from that studio, and one of the more popular is her movie of the same title as our book that we're talking about. Miyazaki's film adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle, calling it, she responded to his film adaptation of Howl's Moving Castle, calling it rich and strange, with beautiful animation, and feeling that Miyazaki understood her books in a way that nobody else has ever done. She does acknowledge that the film and the books are very different, but she thinks that Miyazaki kind of got the energy and the essence of how she's writing the story, maybe, since the plots are related but not the same. So it's a very artistic take on what she wrote. While acknowledging the significant plot difference from her novel, she appreciated Miyazaki's creative vision and translation of her work into the fantasy medium, and she ever considered the book and the movie to be good in their own way. So you can see it, hopefully you all can read that. Tried to make it big, but also fit on the screen. Howl's Moving Castle is a fantasy novel first published in 1986 by Green Willow Books of New York. Jones thanks an unaccredited child, a boy, who asked her while she was visiting a school to write a story about a moving castle. So she's like, okay, I will. And the novel has been described as new mythology or fairy tales. She describes it to people, or I describe it to people, as a mashup between Beauty and the Beast, The Wizard of Oz, and Alice in Wonderland all in one story. The novel was the runner-up for the annual Boston Globe Horn Book Award and won the Phoenix Award 20 years later after it was published. So I have that in the previous slide. The novel has been reprinted many times and has been translated into various languages. It has recently been reprinted again due to the popularity of J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series. people looking for things. Once you find something you love, you want more, and when there's a series or when there's just a single novel, you want to find, if you like this, try that sort of things. So this was mine. I finished the Harry Potter series. When I was working in the bookstore, I was like, okay, I need something else. It was just such an immersion into a whole fantasy world that was effortless. Like, it took very little energy to learn the world that you're entering and the rules about the world and all of that. And I think Jones is actually even more effortless in how she talks about magic and how she creates those fantasy worlds. Let's see. Sometimes it's considered young adult fiction or fantasy. Sometimes it's cataloged with juvenile materials. I will make the argument that this is like a fairy tale. It's for any age. You can appreciate it maybe at a younger age, but if you read it at an older age, you get a completely different perspective because of the nature of the story, and we'll talk about that in just a second. In 2024, the novel was adapted into the Studio Ghibli animated film of the same name. The feature-length animation was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature. And I will always say that the book is a million times deeper and better than the film because they are so different and they're different people's takes on the same story. But I am still a fan of the animated production as well, and I highly recommend anything by Studio Ghibli. I'll think of the title in just a second. There's a few others. Kiki's Delivery Service, we were just talking about that. I actually have the book that the film was inspired by up here at the front, one of our library books. And Spirited Away is the one that I was trying to think of. I also think that that's a take on Alice in Wonderland. If I have to review them in the future, maybe I will. So, I'm just going to start with one of the quotes from the book. Interesting things did seem to happen, but always to somebody else.
Is she the director of the library?
Go through some of our main characters here just very quickly. I'm struggling with this book review because I don't want to tell you the story. I don't want to give it away, so I'm trying to tantalize you in checking it out from the library, either audiobook, ebook, or print copies. We have various ones across the STLS system, so hopefully you can snag one either through interlibrary loan or through one of our physical locations.
I'm going to get...
So our main characters, Sophie Hatter, she's the main character. She's an 18-year-old. She's the eldest of 3 sisters. Her family runs a hat shop in the prosperous town of Market Chipping. One day, an evil witch comes into the shop for some unknown reason and turns Sophie into a 90-year-old woman. So she goes from being 18 to 90. And like that. Diana Wynne Jones credits the inspiration for this character from a devastating personal experience where, while at a fairly young age, she had such a violent reaction to something she ate, it almost took the use of her legs. So she was walking around with a cane at a very, or I would say like a mid to younger age in the interview I was listening to. And she said, it was very interesting where if you have a cane, you can tap it and get people's attention. And as a younger person, people don't listen to you. They're like, shh, be quiet. And as an older person, you command a little more authority, a little more respect, and you can actually get some more out of that. And that comes into play here in the story. The wizard Howl is also one of our other main characters. He's a mysterious wizard who is a looming threat in the town of Market Chipping. He is said to eat girls' hearts or suck out their souls. The Witch of the Waste, a haughty evil witch determined to dominate all, inspired by a formidable aunt Jones had, she said in her interview that I listened to. Calcifer, he's a snarky and grumpy, powerful fire spirit, or demon is what they call, who works for Howl. Michael Fisher, he is Wizard Howl's apprentice. Letty Hatter and Martha Hatter, Sophie's younger sisters, just like Heroine. I think they're inspired by that as well. And Fanny Hatter is her stepmother. So I just want to talk a little bit about, like in literature, I think this is fascinating, looking at this book through the lens of the hero's journey. You may have heard about that if you've ever taken a literature class, and if you haven't, this is actually, I think it's very interesting. So I'm calling it the heroine's journey. So we're adding the heroine in place of hero here, because There are elements of some feminism in this story, which I really appreciate. It's set in a place where you may want to compare it to the early 1700s, like how women were treated and how women were restricted by society. But this is in an imaginary world. So the hero's journey, and we'll say heroine's journey, is also known as the monomyth. It is a common narrative structure found in stories across many cultures and time periods. The monomyth describes the cyclical journey where a hero, or in our case a heroine, leaves their ordinary world, undergoes trials and transformations, and returns transformed, bringing new wisdom or boons to the ordinary world. This structure is often depicted as a circular journey, with the heroes starting and ending in their familiar world, but returning changed by their experiences. So the significance is the hero's journey is a powerful storytelling structure that resonates with audiences because it taps into the universal themes of growth, transformation, and overcoming adversity. It can be applied to various genres, from epic fantasy to personal dramas, or used to create relatable and engaging narratives. The hero's journey is often seen as a reflection of the human psyche and the journey of self-discovery. So another quote here, "You can't be fussy when you're off to seek your fortune." So I'm borrowing some imagery from the Miyazaki film, and you'll see fan art and all other things. There's people who dress up like the characters at cosplay conferences, and so this is Sophie in her various forms. So the key stages to the hero's or heroine's journey. The ordinary world. The heroine's normal everyday life before the adventure begins. So we're setting the stage. The call to adventure. An event disrupts this ordinary world, inviting the heroine to embark on a quest. Refusal of the call. The heroines may initially hesitate or refuse the call to adventure, fearing the unknown. Meeting the mentor. The heroine encounters a wise figure who provides guidance, training, or assistance. And these are not always perfectly aligned, but these are the steps that kind of come within the hero's journey or heroine's journey. Crossing the threshold. The heroine commits to the adventure and enters the special unknown world. Tests, allies, and enemies. The heroine faces challenges, forms alliances, and encounters adversaries in the special world. Approach to the inmost cave. And I think this is a nod to some philosophy that we talk about the cave.
The machine doesn't work.
I think it's Aristotle. I think we talked about the cave, but get back to that. The heroine prepares for a major ordeal or a crisis. The ordeal. The heroine confronts their greatest fears, faces death, and experiences a major turning point. The reward, or seizing the sword. The heroine claims a reward such as a treasure, knowledge, or a victory. The roadblock. The heroine begins the journey back to the ordinary world, often facing new challenges. Resurrection. The heroine undergoes a final test, demonstrating their transformation. And then the final step in this journey is the return with the elixir. So the heroine returns to the ordinary world, bringing back the reward or newfound knowledge, and is transformed by their experiences. I'll try to do this in the same voice that I hear in the audiobook. It's like, yes, you are nosy. You're a dreadfully nosy, horribly bossy, appallingly clean old woman. Control yourself. You're victimizing us all. I make that 4 horses and 10 men just to get rid of one old woman. What did you do to the king? My shining dishonesty will be the salvation of me. So themes in this book. I'm going to do one more quote. It's actually below this picture. Instead of talking to the hats, she tried each one on as she finished it and looked in the mirror. This is a mistake. The staid gray dress did not suit Sophie, particularly when her eyes were red-rimmed with sewing. And since her hair was a reddish straw color, neither did the pink hat. So one of the things we learn about Sophie at the very beginning is she's very good at making hats. She works in a hat shop. Her father was a hatter. That's her last name. But she has a curious predilection, I guess, as she's creating hats. She imagines the body that should be underneath the hat as she's creating it. And she talks to the hats, and she flatters the hats. She tells them, well, you are youth. You're young as a green leaf, and you will need to marry money. And you, and just keeps on describing the people that should fit underneath the hats. So other themes that we see within the classic monomyth, we've talked about growth, transformation, overcoming adversity, but things that I have noticed and taken out of this is love. Love is one of the common themes talked about. And here's a quote from Diana Wynne Jones about this. If you love someone enough, all sorts of other extraordinary things happen in your surrounding, as well as you can achieve great things, even if the world falls to pieces around you. Love is a form of wizardry. Age is a common theme that we talk about too. It's hard not to. Putting the mind of an 18-year-old in the body of a 90-year-old. I think that's probably the most fascinating part of this whole story, is just how she's experiencing life from new eyes. So, youth and older age. Jones explores the limits, both physically and socially, but also the freedom that comes with age and knowledge. When you're young, if you yell and scream, no one pays attention, other than to tell you to be quiet. As an older person, you can demand more attention and respect. She flips the script on the old crone character that we've seen in other books. And Sophie finds freedom in old age, actually. Beauty is another theme, both natural and superficial. The novel compares natural beauty, both human and botanical, against the superficial, hair, hats, makeup, and it's actually quite pervasive, and it's very interesting if you stop and think about it. I think as you read it the first time, hopefully you'll read it more than once, because I love it that much, it's just like a nice story. But I think some of these deeper themes really resonate if you try it a second time. Determination, stubbornness, and self-worth. So someone finding their own power, having that hero's journey, even if it's not brandishing a sword against a dragon, it's actually learning about yourself and coming into your own, and that's what I see Sophie kind of going through in this story. Of course, magic, witches and wizards, curses, and benevolent magic too. Like talking life into things is something that's mentioned quite often. So using your imagination and making it come real. And then contracts, whether between wizards and spirits or between two human beings, such as marriage or love. So another quote, that's why I love spiders. If at first you don't succeed, try again. I hope your bacon burns. I'm going to say this is from our snarky little fire demon. So imagery in Howl's Moving Castle. We talk about hearths and chimneys quite often. Actually, we have a fire spirit who lives in a chimney. But I think this may actually refer to the Greek goddess, Vestia, or Hestia, however you want to say it, who's the virgin goddess of the hearth and the home. We talk about hearts and love, stars, fire, flowers, spiders and webs. Natural beauty, human, hairs, eyes, inner beauty. Natural beauty within nature, the flowers, the hills, the deserts. And superficial beauty, hats, suits, clothes. And then also just city life and comparing the freedom being in a moving castle versus being stuck in a city. It's also something. A heart is a heavy burden. An excellent kind of closing quote on this. Before I read just something real quick, as long as I have enough time, I can't see a clock in here. I think we ought to live happily ever after. I'm just going to do a real quick reading of the first few paragraphs from the book. And hopefully this, again, entices you to try it out, even if you've never read a fantasy book in your life. So this is chapter 1, in which Sophie talks to hats. In the land of Ingary, where such things as 7-league boots and cloaks of invisibility really exist, it is quite a misfortune to be born the eldest of 3. Everyone knows you are the one who will fail first, and worse, if the 3 of you set out to seek your fortunes. Sophie Hatter was the eldest of 3 sisters. She was not even the child of a poor woodcutter, which might have given her some chance of success. Her parents were well-to-do and kept a ladies' hat shop in the prosperous town of Market Chipping. True, her own mother died when Sophie was just 2 years old, and her sister Letty was 1 year old, and their father married his youngest shop assistant, a pretty blonde girl called Fanny. Fanny shortly gave birth to the 3rd sister, Martha. This ought to have made Sophie and Letty into ugly sisters. But in fact, all 3 girls grew up very pretty indeed, though Letty was the one everyone said was the most beautiful. Fanny treated all 3 girls with the same kindness and did not favor Martha in the least. Mr. Hatter was proud of his 3 daughters and sent them all to the best school in town. Sophie was the most studious. She read a great deal, and very soon realized how little chance she had of an interesting future. It was a disappointment to her, but she was still happy enough, looking after her sisters and grooming Martha to seek her fortune when the time came. Since Fanny was always busy in the shop, Sophie was the one who looked after the younger 2. There was a certain amount of screaming and hair-pulling between those younger 2. Letty was by no means resigned to being the one who, next to Sophie, was bound to be the least successful. "It's not fair," Letty would shout. "Why should Martha have the best of it just because she was born the youngest? I shall marry a prince, so there." To which Martha always retorted that she would end up disgustingly rich without having to marry anybody. Then Sophie would have to drag them apart and mend their clothes. She was very deft with her needle. As time went on, she made clothes for her sisters too. There was one deep rose outfit she made for Letty the May Day before this story really starts, which Fanny said looked like it had come from the most expensive shop in Kingsbury. About this time, everyone began to talk of the Witch of the Waste again. It was said that the witch had threatened the life of the king's daughter, and the king had commanded his personal magician, Wizard Solomon, to go to the waste and to deal with the witch. And it seemed that Wizard Solomon had not only failed to deal with the witch, he had got himself killed by her. So when a few months after that, a tall black castle suddenly appeared on the hills above Market Chipping, blowing clouds of black smoke from its 4 tall, thin turrets, everyone was fairly sure that the witch had moved out of the waste again and was about to terrorize the country the way she used to do 50 years ago. People got very scared indeed. Nobody went out alone, particularly at night. What made it all the scarier was when the castle did not stay in the same place. Sometimes it was a tall black smudge on the moors to the northwest, sometimes it reared above the rocks to the east, and sometimes it came right downhill to sit on the heather only just beyond the last farm to the north. You could actually see it moving. Sometimes with smoke pouring out from the turrets and dirty gray gusts. For a while, everyone was certain that the castle would come right down into the valley before long, and the mayor talked of sending for the king for help. But the castle stayed roving about the hills, and it was learned that it did not belong to the Witch of the Waste, but to the wizard Howl. Wizard Howl was bad enough. Though he did not seem to want to leave the hills, he was also known to amuse himself by collecting young girls and sucking the souls from them, or some people said he ate their hearts. He was an utterly cold-blooded and heartless wizard, and no young girl was safe from him if he caught her on her own. Sophie, Letty, and Martha, along with all the other girls in Market Chipping, were warned never to go out alone, which was a great annoyance to them. They wondered what use Wizard Howl found for all the souls he collected. They had other things in mind, on their minds before long, however, for Mr. Hatter had died suddenly, just as Sophie was old enough to leave school for good. I'll stop there. So, I think her writing is magical, I'll say that, but it's just lovely, and it's accessible for anybody. You can read it to children. I don't think there's anything in here that's necessarily challenging, and we talk about romance a little bit, but yeah, there's nothing that's adult themed too much. So I will open this up. So some of the resources I use. I also have some other book recommendations, I would say, just along the same lines. Good Omens by Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett. Stardust by Neil Gaiman. Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman. Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. Circe by Madeline Miller. And Strained Practice by Vivian Shaw. And I have so many more, so if you're interested in this genre, talk to me. I'm happy to continue. But questions? Is there anything anybody wants to talk about, ask about?
So I remember you saying that you read the book series after you read the Harry Potter books?
Yes.
So at that point, had the movie already been released, and were you aware of the movie?
The movie came out in 2008, if I remember correctly. I have to go back to my notes. I can't remember.
Okay.
I didn't see the movie first, though.
Okay.
I read the book first. And because I was working at Borders, I was running the children's department, which included the young adult books, and so it was shelved in the young adult books. And as I was in charge of that section, I was also in charge of shelving the books in that section. And so I just was constantly like, I have to read that, I have to read that. And I love children's literature, I also love picture books and that kind of thing, but then I started getting into young adult books as well. And anybody who hasn't tried them, I actually highly recommend young adult books for older adults. I think they're very accessible, they're very quick. I think some things are a little formulaic, but it just depends on the author, of course. Question?
Hey,
Yes.
voila. This is an excellent review.
Oh, okay.
But before I ask you the question, let me say, what a coincidence. Today, October 10th, is the National Day of Republic of China, Taiwan. Well, why I want to tell everybody is because when I came to the United States as an immigrant, I hold the passport of Taiwan. But then now I sometimes think that people think that I'm illegal immigrant, may send me back to communist China. So I just want everybody knows who am I there. My name is Hugh.
Yes.
Yeah.
You help me garden.
Oh, my question?
I said
My
you help
question
me.
is,
Yeah.
you know, the book's title is about the castle.
Mhm.
Where in England you say castle instead of castle. Well, you know, when I learned about the word of voila, and I found out from your library that it's a French actually, right? Correct? So my question is, what is the origin mean of the word castle?
That I would have to look up.
I mean, what is your definition, as you know, from, say, AI or Webster Dictionary? What's your understanding of the meaning of castle?
I would have to look it up. I would use the Oxford English Dictionary, would be my go-to as a librarian, just to figure out the origins and where it comes from.
Well,
My understanding of it is that it's, in this story, it's,
well,
I think the thing that to point out in this story is
yeah.
the castle that they're referencing is a complete, well, I don't want to give away the story.
Well,
The castle is someone's idea of a castle.
Well,
So,
the castle actually possibly is original from Chinese.
Mm.
It means excellent wealth,
It was excellent.
excellent house or
Okay.
living space.
Dwelling is,
Well,
yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I
but
thought it was.
but
yeah.
I mean, it's up to you whether you believe it or not. But,
Well,
but
it makes sense.
I've been doing the research on the original of English words. That's why I raised the
Sure.
question.
Well, excellent dwelling, I think that's a really interesting thing to think about from the lens of the story. And I'll leave it there for the people that want to read it. Yeah. Any other questions?
Do we have the animated version of Howl?
I will have to look. I know that we have it in the system, most definitely. So yeah, you can. I would highly recommend you read the book first.
Book first.
Don't want to put the movie down, but since it's the book is the inspiration for the film, I would highly recommend it. You can never get your first impression back. So I always try to read the book first, especially the source material. But there are some things where a movie has come first and they've created a book out of the movie. So then I would say, watch the movie first. I just think the artist's first impression and initial creation, you don't want it to be muddied by somebody else's version of theirs. If you're a purist, I guess. And yeah, I have the same thing when I look at visual art. I don't read the artist's statement yet. I want to get my first reaction. And then I look at the artist's statement and say, did I get the same thing from that? Or then I can come at it with fresh eyes and say, well, now how do I look for what they're trying to portray?
You know, recently they announced who won the Nobel Prize for Literature, who wrote quite a few books about fictions, like The End of the World, and so forth. Now, my question may not relate to your presentation, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
I have not read any books by the latest winner. I haven't actually looked it up yet. I was working on this.
Would you then maybe make sure the library have some of his books?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
And that goes for everybody. If we don't have something that you're looking for, you can ask a librarian to purchase it. We're happy to do that. We want to make sure that we have the items that you're looking for. The other bonus is we are connected to all the other libraries within the STLS system, so we can always get books from other libraries if we don't have something. But if you think it should be part of the collection, we always want to get that feedback too.
Now, upon your recommendation, I read this book over the last couple of weeks, which is lovely. And it's more of a comment than a question, but I'd love to comment on the lovely sense of humor that the author has.
Oh, she's so
And I have the book with me, and an example is the titles of some of the chapters. One is chapter 5, which is far too full of washing.
Yes.
And then chapter 19, in which Sophie, the main character, expresses her feelings with weed killer. It's just, they're so clever, and so you read the chapter title and you think, oh, and it's a delightful, lovely humor, which we all know is often in short supply in our world today.
And if you're a fan of it, I would say it's definitely different, American humor versus British humor. So if I'm an Anglophile to some degree, I guess, and I love British humor. I love the wordplay. I love how they, even when they're being silly, it's intelligent humor, and I think that definitely is in this story as well. Any other questions?
Well, thank you very much. Well, that wraps our season. So we will decide on some new dates, and that'll become public, and you can find that on the computer, and hope to see you in the spring.